Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. I'm your host, Lorenzo Melcher, coming to you live from my parents' basement, where I've been now for, almost 10 episodes. So, as I always say, thanks to all of you for always liking, sharing, subscribing, downloading to the podcast, helping in any way you can. Find us on any social media, search the Nerdball Podcast, and don't forget the YouTube page. If you want to give me a late birthday present, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because my son is almost catching me in YouTube subscribers. So I can't let that happen. I need to keep moving on. So if you could help me there, that'd be wonderful. If you want to be on the show, email the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. And if we can get you on, I'm always looking for new guests. So that is all I got. So again, thank you all and enjoy the episode.
My name's Frank Lars, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
All right, Frank, thanks for coming on my podcast for the second time you had to make a trip out here.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. You're welcome, man.
The first time, I don't know, I think I figured it out. I think I didn't have enough memory on my computer, but it didn't say that. It just said it's aborting.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't give me a message or whatever, so I figured it out. Anyway, you're here again, so again, thanks for coming out here, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an IT guy, but I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. One thing I tell people, or the first question I always ask is, what is something you're nerding out about? Something you're really into, something that gets you away. That my only thing is it can't be about your job. So something that kind of gets you away from that, and you just like TV, movies. Do you like to cook? Do you like play cards? And whatever.
You know what? I've been watching The Wire.
Okay.
I went back and watched The Wire. The first 4 seasons, I'm 4.5 seasons through it. Okay. And I don't know, I got really into it. I like HBO shows. I'm into The Sopranos and Deadwood and whatnot. So I started watching The Wire, and I've really been into it. I go around and tell people to watch The Wire, especially season 3 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never, of those 3 shows, I know all about them. Never watched one episode of any
The
of those
Wire's
shows.
great.
Is it?
Yeah, The Wire's great.
So what is the synopsis of The Wire?
So it's a Baltimore special crimes, like drug the DEA in Baltimore, and then like how that interacts with the gang members and the schooling system and like other aspects of society, and how it all kind of ties in. It's really well done, and the guy who does it, I believe he was like a field reporter, or he was like worked with the Baltimore Police Department. So he knows a lot about, the area, and it's like, it's a sprawling like view of like the city of Baltimore, and but it's a great show.
Have you said you're 4.5 seasons in, have you watched it before?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I have not.
Go ahead.
The 5th season, they say, is the weakest one.
Okay.
So I've kind of like tapered off a little bit, but first 4 seasons were amazing. Idris
Elba?
Yeah. He's fantastic, and he's scary.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is he really?
Oh, yeah, he's terrifying. It's great.
My wife and I are going through Dexter right now.
Yeah, I've heard that's a really good one. I've never watched it, but
yes.
When I bring up The Wire, people say you should watch Dexter.
Yes, it is very good.
Yeah.
It is. This is our second time watching it through.
Yeah.
But we've watched it so long ago. The reason we're doing it is because they just came out with a brand new season.
Sure.
And so we wanted to watch it through again, and it is just as good as I don't remember. That's a good thing about me and having a bad memory, is I can watch things over and over and it's
and
like
be
brand
surprised.
New. Yes,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I might remember some things now, like The Office. I watched way too much of it. I know too much about it, but yeah, it is very good. But we're always looking for new shows, and I kind of like. I like when I know like those shows like you mentioned, Sopranos, The Wire, like they ended, so I kind of like knowing that, all right, there's an end, and because some of the shows you watch, this is a great first season, and then it doesn't get picked up.
Yeah, right. I think some people say True Detective. Did you watch that?
I watched the first season.
Yeah, I heard that was really good too. Mm-hmm. That might be my next one.
Yeah. I love just sitting down on the couch, watching TV.
Totally.
Just hanging out.
If you can find the time.
Yeah. And that's the worst part for me is our time is usually after 9:30, and I got to get up. I got to get up at 5:15 for work. So it's
You barely have any, but it is nice. It's a good way to unwind.
Yeah.
I like a lot of those comedy shows too. I watch The Office. I say Trailer Park Boys, The Office, and the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Oh, yep.
Seinfeld, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. That would be probably my comedy list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Now that I'm on the last season, Netflix season of Arrested Development, and everyone always says like, yeah, the first 3 are really good, and then the Netflix ones aren't as good.
You know what? I couldn't even get through it. It was almost unwatchable. Yeah, because the first 3 seasons are so great.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about it on a podcast with my guests a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking about the comedy and the writing and all that stuff. And,
Yeah.
And and then something it bothers me, like every episode, especially in Netflix when it first started, it's like the whole episode is just recapping things that happened.
Yeah, right. Again, I'd have to go revisit those. I'm not sure if I even want to, but
Maybe not.
yeah, I know, maybe, but again,
it was good.
to be let down, and it happens with movies and whatnot all the
Yeah.
time, sequels, and when something gets picked back up, especially after a while, different production companies and whatnot, it just doesn't seem to quite live up to its former glory.
Yeah, and I can't think of a show that was like, maybe did Curb go, like, do they go years
So
between,
Curb Your
right?
Enthusiasm, I think they did like 6, 7, or 8 seasons, and then there was a hiatus for a few years. But
Yeah.
it was funny when it came back.
Yeah, I was saying that's the only one people ever talk about where it's like, yeah, it came back and it was just as good as I remember.
Yeah, I know. I think we're on the last season now. I haven't seen like the last 2 seasons, but
Okay.
yeah. But Larry David, in my opinion, is one of the top 3 funniest people of all time. I mean,
Yeah. I see a lot of TikToks from Curb Your Enthusiasm, and they're so funny.
You haven't watched that show?
I have not.
Oh, you should. Are
yeah.
you a Seinfeld fan?
Yeah, I like Seinfeld.
Yeah. Oh, you love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh man, it's great.
There's one specifically that kept popping up around the election, where he was in Larry David was in line with somebody. He's like, "Hey, you're voting for this guy? Oh, I'm voting for the other one. Why don't we just get on line?"
Yeah. Right.
And then Larry David's candidate lost by 1 vote.
And it is funny too because a lot of that stuff and like that, it is really true to life. You know what I mean? Like you think about these things, but you really never you wouldn't think to like write it down or even like really express it. But like he's the guy that was like, he says what you're thinking. So it's funny.
Good or bad?
Yeah. Right.
Well, yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, like I said, TV and movies. I get into movies recently. Usually for whatever reason around like if I go on a vacation, obviously going on a plane, it gets me like I watch a movie
Watch
there,
a movie on the plane, yeah.
Or like sometimes I watch old movies because like if my wife's getting ready or the kids are getting ready for the day and I'm just sitting there, like a movie will be on. We watched National Treasure when we're on vacation.
Yeah.
So like it's just like these old movies that pop up. It's just whatever it is.
Yeah,
man,
totally.
it's fun,
I like a good movie. What was the most recent one that like I should watch?
I just watched Smile 2 yesterday.
Okay.
I don't know if you watched the first Smile.
Is it a kids movie?
No. They are horror movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's pretty creepy.
Is it?
I think it was like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. They did promos and no one knew about it, but they did promos during the World Series. And in the back, you know how they shoot the World Series, you see the pitcher and then the catcher, and in the back in the stands, it was just these people sitting there and just smiling really big, like.
Oh, that was the ad promo.
Yes.
Yes. That's
and it was like in these like no one knew about it. It's like look at like
they had to pay for people to go to the World Series.
Maybe I don't know, but it was crazy just to see this promo for it, and then it was very good. Same thing with the second one. I really enjoyed it too. But
okay,
if you don't like
Smile too.
If you don't like horror movies it's pretty gory.
Yeah, it's not my genre, but if it's on, sometimes I'll watch it. I'll watch a scary movie.
My wife and daughter just watched Wicked, and they love that new Wicked. movie.
Yeah. My daughter really wants to see that.
Yeah. It was. It's not my thing, so they just went, but they said they really.
It's
liked
like The Wizard of Oz, like
Correct.
a spinoff of The Wizard of Oz.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure people will let us know exactly how wrong we are, but I thought it was centered around the Wicked Witch. But yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, maybe I'll see it. I don't know.
And then you can let us
me
know.
and my daughter. Yeah. Then I'll come back and tell you about it.
Frank, did you grow up around here?
I did. I grew up in Perrysburg.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, like Lake Township, Perrysburg.
Okay.
So kind of out in the sticks, but
Yeah.
I did, and then I went to All Saints for grade school. Yep, in Rossford, and then I went to St. John's, and then I did a stint at Bowling Green.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Yeah.
Was in
St.
Toledo.
Rose.
In
Oh,
Toledo.
it's in Toledo.
Yeah, I went to Our Lady of Lourdes. It doesn't exist anymore. The church is
I remember
still there.
that. I remember OLL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was it was a big change from going there for 13 kids in my 8th grade to moving to Perrysburg when I was a freshman.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah.
But what you have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger sister.
Did she also go to Catholic schools?
She did. Yep. She went to All Saints and then went to St. Ursula.
Is it just because your parents wanted you guys to go to those schools? Did you ever ask your parents about it?
You know what? I growing up, we weren't super religious, but I just think that they thought that they could afford it and that it was just going to be a better education. And I guess I would have went to Lake.
Yeah.
So, they just thought that, it would just be better for us.
Yeah.
And my dad went to St. John's. So, and all of his brothers went to St. John's. So
you were kind of destined to.
Yeah, I had to go to St. John's. I didn't necessarily want to because there's no girls there. You know what I mean? So I was worried that I wasn't ever going to meet anyone.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I wanted to go to Central, but my dad was like, "No, I want you to go to St. John's." So I went to St. John's. It was the best decision ever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Good.
It was awesome. It's kind of nice to be in a setting where it's all one gender because you don't have to worry about like putting on airs to like impress anyone. You don't have to worry about how you dress. I mean, you have to wear a tie every day, but you don't have to be. You don't have to watch what you say and watch how you act because it's just a bunch of guys. So in that way, it was positive and it's a great education.
Yeah.
And good sports teams. I mean, I can't speak for them now, but again, not good or bad. I just haven't been following them.
Yes.
But I know it's always a good basketball program. But I loved it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I remember touring as an 8th grader, touring all the Catholic high schools. And
right.
My favorite was Cardinal Stritch. I really like Cardinal Stritch. I think it's because my school was so small. That's what I liked about it.
Right.
And that it was co-ed. Like I grew up. That's all I was co-ed. Right. I was used to that. I wanted to keep doing that. So I really like Cardinal Stritch. My dad ended up moving here to Perrysburg because there was going to be 4 of us that he was had to send to high school. So he was like, I'm not paying for that. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Right. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it now, but
no, because it's like 10, 12 grand a year.
I can't even imagine.
Maybe
my
more.
daughter's 5 now. She's in Catholic grade school right now, but we have it's called Ed Choice. So yeah. So we utilize that.
Yeah.
But I think when they get to high school, it's a totally different story. So we'll see. We'll have to pinch pennies.
What'd you do in high school? Like activities?
So I played a little soccer. I was terrible though. And I did the TV4 news when I was a senior.
Okay.
So,
what made you?
I was the
that?
weatherman.
No,
you know what? I was supposed to do the weekly restaurant review. That was going to be my thing, which was like never going to get aired, and it was probably never even going to get done. But the weatherman wasn't there the first day.
Okay.
So they asked me to do it, and it was funny because I didn't get like the green screen training.
Yeah.
So like I was like off camera, and I was like kind of looking at the green screen, and like I was just kind of reading it backwards.
Yeah.
And then I kind of kept that shtick going.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of a goof, but
yeah,
it was fun. It was funny.
Did you do that like all year?
When I was a senior, yeah. I think maybe half of my junior year too. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Have you always liked? I mean, I would call that a performance. Did you always like performing? Like that?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. I like, acting and I'm a really big fan of comedy. I love music, but I love comedy a little bit more. But I don't know. I'd rather just write for someone else because I don't want to get on stage and like have the be disappointment. Even though I perform music, it's different because your guitar is your,
a crutch, I guess. Right?
Yeah, right. So just to be up there and not hear laughs would be terrifying. But
well, as someone who used to do that and not hear laughs from time to time, it is terrifying.
I'm sure.
Right?
I know.
But the payoff, especially if it happens to the same show, we're like, all right, I'm trying this joke, it didn't go, and then you do this other joke, and everyone's laughing at it. Like, okay, now that to the crowd, that other joke that didn't land doesn't matter anymore. You know,
right?
just keep moving.
Yeah.
But it is a tough feeling where you're up there and this joke that you think is really funny to you is not to anybody else.
I know, and you know, too, especially in this landscape, like you almost have to be overly conscious about what you're saying, and like even like in a comedy performance, and back, you know, 15, 20 years ago, you didn't really have to do that. You know? So I feel like now a comedian that's wanting to start out, they really have to tread lightly on their act. I mean, if you're going to be like Brian Regan or like just do a totally clean act, you know, they're tip of the cap to you for that too, because that's probably twice as hard. But I don't know. I just feel like you know, your subject matter is kind of diminished.
Yeah.
Do you still ever do it, or when did you do comedy?
So I've probably stopped in the past. I don't know. The past few years, I did a show here or there. My brother-in-law Jake Paluski used to run a music show at Levi and Lilac. In their loft area. They don't have that anymore. But I would do comedy shows and help him out there every once in a while. But before that, I'd stopped doing comedy for like 4 years.
Yeah.
But to go back to what you're saying about your topics and stuff you talk about, what I've learned is, as long as you are a good joke teller, like you can talk about a lot of stuff,
right?
And there's a big difference between like, hey, I'm doing this thing at an open mic in front of just comedians. We're gonna laugh at all kinds of stuff,
sure.
Or I'm gonna try this joke for the first time in front of this crowd. It's a Valentine's show, and I'm gonna talk about this terrible subject.
Yeah, right.
So you got to like pick it, and also as you get better or become a better writer, like you can talk about really bad things or seemingly bad things, but you're just a real good writer.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's not like you want to go off on some crazy tirade, but it's just like something that offends one person might be like hilarious, to another person. So it's actually, you just kind of got to read the room. But again, I don't know anything about stand-up comedy. I would love to try it sometime, but I'm nervous. I'm really nervous.
There is a lot, a good open mic scene right now.
There is. There is.
Dave Crumley runs a lot of good shows. And Joe Morgan runs a good show. Like these guys that I did comedy with years ago.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of them are open mics, and people just go show up and give me, here's 5 minutes, and 5 minutes, especially if anybody's listening who wants to try it, 5 minutes is an eternity.
I'm sure.
When you've never done it before. Now, as I was getting better at it, I was like, 5 minutes, I got to really whittle this down to like the heart of whatever I want to try.
Right.
But it's fun. If you are able to write stuff and give it a try, man, it's a lot of fun. It is one of those things.
I would like to do it. I'd probably practice a little bit at home and maybe in front of some friends. But if I had something that I felt was probably like a type 5, like I would go try it.
And that's the good thing about open mics is where it's like, hey, I mean, usually the MC is saying like, hey, some of these are seasoned comedians, some of these are people who are showing up for the first time. So open mic audiences are pretty forgiving in the fact that there's going to be a lot of new stuff happening. Sure. Whether you've been doing comedy for 15 years or it's your first day.
Sure.
But how I write is I write every word, like every A and the. I got to write everything.
Yeah, you don't just jot down like an idea.
I can't do that.
Yeah, and because if you come back to it, you might not know what you were.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've tried it before.
Yeah.
On stage, and it's failed miserably. So.
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
Yeah, and some people can. Like they think of a thought and they're like, all right, cool. Here's the thought I thought of, and I'm just gonna riff off that. I can't do that. What I am getting better at is I have another podcast that I do called Things I Learned, and I just have 5 topics, and I talk about these things I learned in the previous week. I don't write myself any notes because I'm trying to get better at just like speaking off the cuff, just
sure,
because it's just something I wasn't really good at, so I'm trying to do better at that.
Right.
But yeah, it's as long as you know what you're talking about, know your material, it is still going to be nerve-wracking. I'm not going to say that, but you'll feel a little bit more comfortable. And for me, as soon as I started talking, all that went away. I was always nervous, but all that went away as soon as these nerves, that doesn't play into music at all because you perform a lot.
Not really. When I was starting out, maybe a little bit, but once I really found my voice and once I was comfortable, I knew a few songs and I had a few things under my belt and a few shows under my belt. It really, it was nothing, and you can kind of be up there and you can kind of just play and sing and like almost zone out, especially if the crowd isn't, completely receptive. you're really not even interacting with them that much.
Yeah.
They're just really kind of listening to you. It's one-sided in a way.
Okay.
So it never really nerves with doing the music.
And when did you start playing?
So I started. So my parents were into good music. I wouldn't say I came from like a musical family, but we listened to a lot of good music growing up, like Tom Petty and Steve Miller and Steely Dan and stuff like that. My dad did have a band with his like the people that he worked with, so they'd come over every Thursday and perform for like their wives and like friends and just the other people that worked with them that didn't play anything, and he played the drums. So we had a drum set in our garage. So when I was 15, I learned the drums.
Okay.
And we had a band in high school with a few guys, and we played a few shows, and like we were okay. I mean, we had some original music, but it wasn't like we weren't super serious about it to where it was like, okay, I'm not gonna go to college. We're gonna do this band,
Yeah.
But anyways, so then after that, we all went our separate ways, and I was at Bowling Green for like 2.5 years, but I was kind of like screwing around. I wasn't like totally dead set on any sort of like career path that I was like, I would have just taken a business job. It was a business degree that I was working towards, but I was just partying my butt off and like,
Yeah.
So I stopped going after 2.5 years, and then I had all this time on my hands. When you're not, anybody knows this, but like when you're in school, it pretty much consumes like, at least for 9 months, like your entire life.
Were you a good student when you were in school?
I was pretty good. Yeah. I did okay.
Could manage the partying and the school?
Well, not near the end.
Okay.
College is harder. But I always got good grades, and I didn't have to put in like a ton, I didn't have to like stay up late and like, glue my eyes to the book. Like it came somewhat easy to me.
Okay.
I'm no genius, but like school was fairly easy. So I was able to balance it for a little while.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I stopped going when I was 21, and I had all this time on my hands, and it's like, my point was like, you really don't realize how much time you have when you're not in school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I of course I didn't get the degree, so I was like just working. I was just kind of working for my dad and working in restaurants and stuff.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I've got all this time. I'm going to try to learn the guitar. So I bought an acoustic guitar, and I bought a book that had like all the chord shapes in it.
Yeah.
And like every day I'd come home from work, and I'd just pick up the guitar and play for like 3 hours straight.
Oh, really?
For months. Yeah. For months at a time. I got really into it,
Wow.
And I had some friends who they played and they ran some like open mics. So I started performing right away too.
Okay.
Which was probably a mistake, but at least I like got that aspect of it like down right away. Like people can be, there's a lot of people that are really good, but they won't perform because they're nervous or they fear that like rejection, or they think that their act like has to be perfect. But I was glad that I started performing right away, and then I just practiced and practiced and practiced. That was for about 2 years that I would just play like every night. You know what I mean? I'd sit outside, or like I'd sit in my garage and just play, guitar.
Yeah.
And drink beer and smoke cigarettes and just try to get better.
Yeah, a lot of people will do what you did. Like, I'm going to get this guitar, I'm going to get this book, and then they play a few times, and then they never do it again. And it sounds like, for whatever reason, maybe it's because your dad was in the band, you're like, no, if I'm going to do this, and you really enjoy doing it if you're going to play for hours on end.
Right. I did. I love music. I mean, I love all, I love a lot of different kinds of music. I stay away from like newer country, and like I don't like a lot of heavy metal, but like I'm well versed in like I have an eclectic mix of music that I like. So I've always been into music, and like I've always kind of wanted to. But, before I started playing, I always wanted to, like, perform.
Yeah.
And, be in bands and whatnot. So that was good. There's another thing I wanted to say about it, but I can't remember.
That's right.
So you can edit some of this stuff out.
No,
right?
no, this is all good. This is wonderful. No,
okay, good.
It is cool to. I always like to hear like whatever someone did, like how'd you get started, because it could be all different things. To me, it makes sense that you saw music all the time growing up. So it would lead to be, now for you to not be a drummer, it was a little surprising because it just seems like an easy thing to do. And can you still play drums right now? If
not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like riding a bike where if you had a few years under your belt, you could probably pick it back up. But I don't actively like practice. I don't even have a drum set. You know? But I should. You know, I should go back and play drums a little bit because the drums are really fun. And you know, the drums. It's pretty hard to be like a really good drummer. It's a very physical, like, you know, instrument. Yeah. And, you know, you have to separate your right brain from like your left foot, you know, that's like your right hand from your left foot. That's kind of the hardest part of like learning the drums. Yeah. But no, what I was going to say was like, I have had friends in the past and they'll say like, I think their logic is like, oh, Frank plays the guitar like any idiot can probably do it. You know what I mean? But then they'll get like, you know, they'll buy the guitar and they'll buy the book, but they don't want to put the time in, you know. Yeah. I guess it was just really just a perfect storm for me where I just had a lot of time. So I was able to dedicate myself. Now, you know, I probably wouldn't be able to, but it just worked out that way. Yeah. And then I just went on from there. You know, when you're first starting out, it can be hard because there's already a lot of established musicians that do like the solo thing, you know, in town. So it does take like 2 years to kind of like get into the scene a little bit. Sure. But if you meet the right people, you know, a lot of musicians that I've met, pretty much all of them, local guys that I've met have been really nice and really helpful. You know what I mean? It's not like some backstabbing, like cutthroat. You know what I mean?
I imagine those guys don't last long.
Right. Yeah, right. It's really better. It's really better, you know, sure. I mean, you can be competitive, but it's really better to be when people help each other out. It makes it easier for everyone. So
I learned that like I said, my brother-in-law does music. I don't know if you know who he is, Jake.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I've formally met him, but I know that he plays a lot. And I've seen him perform. He's extremely talented.
He does a lot of shows, but he always makes a point to be like, all right, well, this is my show, but I'm also going to bring somebody with me.
Right. You know, I know he plays like with someone else like almost every time. He does like the Cinco de Mayo. Yeah.
So he does a lot of that, and the same thing. So when he would ask me about that comedy show, like doing comedy shows and stuff up at the loft at Levi Lilac, like I don't do comedy, but I wanted to do it, so I was like, hey, I'll pick a headliner, a middle act, and an opener as long as I can do 5 minutes. And I picked my friends that I knew that were really good comedians. Yeah. And then I was like, hey, I just want 5 minutes. This is your show. And then I also liked, because I know how good it felt when I got paid to do comedy, and it only happened a few times, it felt so good. So I like doing that to friends who like, hey, come do the show. We'll pay you to do the show. Yeah. But that doesn't happen all the time either, you know?
Absolutely. I know. When I first started doing the music too, it was like a lot of open mics, so you're not getting paid. Yeah. And then I remember I would play at the Bronze Boar when I first started. That she let me play on Wednesday nights when no one was playing. It wasn't paid, but like I was able to like go there and perform and hang out. You know what I mean? And just kind of cut my teeth. So they really helped me like kind of get my start. Yeah. I did that for like 3 years, like every Wednesday for free for like 3 hours. Yeah. You know.
Just working for tips?
Just working for tips and just like kind of like polishing my act a little bit, you know? Yeah. So that was nice.
It's always nice to have those places where like where you're able to do, or even if like we don't got a lot, you can play for 2 hours, I can give you $20. You
right,
know what I mean?
I know. And then when you finally do start getting paid, it's like, wow, that's so great that they let me do that. And now that like they've really gave me the stepping stone to take it to the next like stratosphere. You know? So
everyone needs help, man. Everyone needs help.
Totally. You cannot do it on your own. Yeah. With anything.
Sure. Yeah. That's a cool thing of being a good person, right? For you, I've talked to you. This is probably only the second or third time I've talked to you, but for you, like, I'm sure if you were an asshole, they wouldn't have let you do that.
Yeah,
right. You know?
Right.
Like you have to be able to willing to ask for help and also be gracious. Like, oh, thank you. You know, this
absolutely.
Is what's happening, right?
And you know, and it's like paying it forward too. Like I remember there was people that helped me when I was starting to come up. So now I feel like if there's someone that's starting now, like I would be willing to help them. Yeah. You know, if I have to cancel a gig or something, you know what I mean? Say, hey, come play for me, or or whatever.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool.
It's all good. It's all good.
So how often do you perform, do you think? Like per week? How
I would say probably 3 times a week.
Okay.
A little bit more in the summer, you know, but on average about 3 times a week. I think I'll probably end up playing like between like 100 and like 120 gigs this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that like your full-time thing, or do you have another job that
Well,
you do?
so I work for a landscaping company too.
Oh, okay.
But that's only in the summer, and we
Yeah.
don't do a ton of work. So pretty much now I'm doing full-time music.
Okay.
Yeah.
What,
it's nice.
What do you for the landscape company? I'm interested because that's what I do.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
cool.
right?
Yeah, right.
So,
Turf man.
Yeah. So what do you do? Like, do you mow? Do you
So
weed?
pretty much I mow and weed whip and you know dust everything off. But we do like gutters and we do
okay.
hedges and some snow removal, but not much.
What's the company?
It's called Natural Floor. It's my dad's company.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's my
okay.
dad and his twin brother and me.
Nice.
That's pretty much it.
Oh, really?
Kind of skeleton crew, but
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. Do they plow snow and stuff in the winter? Or
A little bit.
Or do they just
A little
they're
bit.
done? Yeah, okay,
No,
okay.
they do a little bit.
Okay, all right. The reason I asked is because
Yeah, that's cool.
Next week I have to call some landscape companies and get some numbers on plowing for us for a couple spots.
Because you don't have a plow.
We do,
Yeah.
but in case of emergencies or in case we can't get to certain places, we need to have like a number to be like, hey, if I call you to do this little lot or building for us, how much is it going to cost?
You can just sub it out.
Yeah,
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 right.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. I'm assuming you've been working with him for a while.
I have been working with him for a while. I like the landscaping because I'm outside in the summer getting some exercise, like listening to music all day, pretty much. You know, with my headphones. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad rap at all. I mean, sometimes I don't like to get up real early and like
Sure.
go, and it's when it's like 95 degrees
Yes.
outside.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably do it. For the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Like I'll probably just take over.
Okay. Yeah.
As much as I would say that I wouldn't want to, I still probably would.
I've been in the green industry for like 15, 16 years now, and my favorite thing to do, and it's funny because when I first started, I did not want to mow, but my favorite thing to do is to mow. Because put some headphones in. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I just listen to podcasts and just mow.
Yeah.
And I always said when I retire from the metro parks, the very next season, I'm gonna apply to be just we have a wide area mower. It's called. It's just a big mower that travels to different parks. And it's like that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's nice. I like to put the angle on the lawn too, like a 45.
Oh
degree.
yeah, different lines and stuff.
Of course,
Dude,
yeah,
like,
of course.
Oh my gosh,
I know, and it's nice. When you go back to next week, you can do the opposite
Yep.
pattern. Yeah. It's so
man.
great.
Something about it, man.
I know.
I have to.
It looks so good. I always take a picture when I'm done if it looks really good.
I do that. I love that in the fall in my own yard because there's such a big difference when all the leaves are down and then you mow everything up and you see the lines and no leaves are there. Those two pictures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Before and after.
There's no.
Dude, I know.
Such a dad thing to do.
Totally. Totally. And I'll be like 5 minutes into it. I'll be like, wait, hold on a second. I forgot to take the before picture.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah. It's right. Sometimes my son mows. And he does not do straight lines, and so it bothers me a little bit. But also, he needs to do some chores every once in a while.
Well, is it the 21-inch mower, just like a little like?
So we had a push mower.
Yeah.
Now we have a riding mower, which we still need to use the push mower because the riding mower is just probably like a hair too big for the yard.
Sure.
But it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a rider mower now.
Those little ones are harder to get the nice lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I gotta give him a little grace, I guess.
Yeah. He'll pick up on it.
He'll get the sense of wait, these lines need to be straighter. I don't like it, but we'll see.
Here's my trick. I start out at like on the lawn and then look across the lawn. So pick a point out across the lawn. Don't look down. You have to be looking at this one little tree or signpost or something. You know what I mean? And just walk straight
just
towards
go
it.
for it.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that's we've done that. There was this guy I worked with a couple jobs ago. This is probably 10 years ago now.
What is the name of what is the name of the company that you work for?
I work for Toledo Metro Parks.
Oh, you work for the Metro Parks.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. There's this guy I worked with probably like 12 years ago. His name was Andy. He was a retired guy from Chrysler. All he did for 40 hours, sit in this big lawnmower and just mow. And he was so good at lines. Like we had these different fields that he would mow, some split up by a creek, where this field, he hit that line, mowed it, and then the next field that was in line eyesight, even though that creek was there, still matched up those lines.
Yeah, I know.
So
That's
good.
hard.
He
I
was
know.
so good.
Yeah.
But it was so appealing to the
jealous.
eye.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
That's real talent.
So you play all these gigs, you're going about town. Do you have maybe you can't say, or maybe you don't want to say, are there particular places that you like to go? Like, oh man, I'm excited to go back to this place or whatever.
Yeah, you know, there is particular places that I like to go because it's always nice to make money. You know, when you go there, no matter what, you're at least going to make some money.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But crowd interaction, it makes the gig go by so much faster.
Yeah.
So like when you get people clapping, or they'll be coming up and requesting songs or whatnot, or tipping you, it's like it makes it that much more fun.
Yeah.
And it makes it that much more exciting. I find that when I go like 30 to 40 minutes out of town, there's a little bit more crowd engagement because they're not so saturated with music all the time, so it's like people are really more appreciative, and I can't say it 100%, but it's like when I go to like, Swanton, or like some places in Michigan, or like Wildside in Grand Rapids is a great gig. I do that every third Friday of the month.
Okay.
So whenever I'm out there, it's always a good crowd, and like people are always really engaging. So that's nice. There's other places that I'll go where it's like I know that pretty much it's just going to be me playing, pretty much like no clapping at the end of the song. Like it's not really the crowd's fault. They're there to eat, or they're there to like be with their friends. You know what I mean? They don't want like, I'm not saying I'm shoving music down their throat, but it's like they may not be there to watch live music.
Yeah.
Which that's totally fine. That's not my fault. It's not their fault. It's really not even the venue's fault. It's just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. And those gigs can be tough. You get an hour and a half into those gigs, I'm like, man, I'm looking at my watch. Like, man, I can't wait to get it. It does feel like work sometimes.
Yeah.
People ask me what I do. Honestly, I say that I'm retired, basically, because I really enjoy just going out, 9, 10, 12 hours a week. I mean, just for the playing time. I mean, I got to practice at home, and I got to drive there and whatnot, you know what I mean? But it's like, just to play music and hang out, I mean, it's great.
My wife and I went to Key West a few weeks ago, and there's live music everywhere.
Yeah.
And I always feel weird. We went to one place to eat lunch, and there's a woman on stage playing, and there's like 5 people there. Like, you know,
right.
Like, and then like they're finished, and there's a couple, we clap or whatever in it. But like, it's always weird to me because I don't know. As a spectator, I don't know how to interact with that because Like I'm a very appreciative, and the music at this particular place was very good. I'm very appreciative.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, for me, it's like, well, I'm just eating, and this person just happens to be playing music. Like,
right.
It's just
Right.
Like, I want to acknowledge them.
Right. I mean, you can't really, as an audience member, there's not a whole lot you can do to accommodate them. I mean, clapping is the best thing you can do.
I always clap and I always tip.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. We need more people like you. No, people are good. Sometimes, as long as the artist is being, properly compensated, you don't have to feel bad. Like, oh man, there's nobody here for this guy. And it does stink. And it's like somebody to be, I've played for just a bartender before, and I've played for, 200 people before. But it's like, there's not, what can you do? You know what I mean? Hey, these people they hired this person to do music for this time slot. There's not a lot of people here or whatever. The crowd's not very engaging. Like, so what? Yeah. I mean, the guy's still making his money, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later in that trip, we went to another bar, and it was probably, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And we hear the music. It's a full band. We hear the music. We go up. We're going upstairs, and to the right is the bar, and everyone's sitting around the bar. To the left are the tables and stuff, and then the music's over there. You can't see the music from the bar.
Right.
That's how everything's laid out. Nobody is sitting over there.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Everybody is sitting at the bar. And I turned to my wife. I was like, should we be sitting over there? I don't want to be over there.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, maybe you could start a trend. But no, that is brutal, though. When you go into a place and there's a bunch of people sitting in the area where the music's supposed to be, and then once you play one note, it's like, you set a bomb off or something. Like, you know, people they just want to conversate amongst themselves. You know what I mean? Maybe the guy wasn't very good, but you know, more often than not, people just want to be able to hear each other talk. Yeah. Which I like to play really quiet, anyways, especially in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, you don't want to distract people, but man, when you start playing and play one song, it's like everybody leaves the area. You're like, oh man, am I that bad?
Has that happened to you?
That's happened before. Yeah. Where it's just like, you know, people are there, they're having a good time.
Yeah.
And then once they even see me, like with my guitar, like, oh my goodness, like they seen a ghost. You know what I mean? Well, it's just because they're just not into hearing music right now. You know, it's not my fault, but so that can be a bit of a blow to the ego. But again, it happens sometimes.
Yeah. How do you've talked about requesting songs. How do you feel about when people do that?
I always say, you know, if there's anything, like pretty much when I introduce myself, I'd say is if there's anything you want to hear, let me know. Mm-hmm. If I'm by myself, I don't have a problem with it at all. Sometimes with a band, you know, the other guys in the band are a little bit more uptight about like, well, I don't really know the song all that well, so like I don't want to mess it up, you know.
Okay.
But me by myself, like I use an iPad, so like if I'm connected to their Wi-Fi, like I could pretty much look anything up too. If it's a song that I haven't heard before, you know, I'll be more hesitant to try it because, you know, I just don't know it.
Yeah.
But I don't have any problem with somebody coming up and requesting songs. I might not be able to do it, and I feel bad if they've cycled through like 3 or 4, you know. But they're like Poison and Metallica and stuff. It's like, dude, this guy got an acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
you know? It's like Slayer. I mean, come on. There's not a whole lot I can do with that. But
you did play music for me here.
I played here before.
Yeah, and I think I requested because I like Taking Back Sunday and Yellow Card. And
I think I was able to do a little bit of post-punk like emo stuff.
You definitely did because I remember singing along to whatever song you were able to find. So
I grew up on a lot of that stuff. So.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when I was like in 8th grade in high school, that stuff was really popular.
That was same thing. That was when did you graduate high school?
At 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in 03, and that's all I listened to. And even last night we were having my party for my birthday party, and we had a speaker, and all it was The Used, Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
Like
good
all
stuff.
It's cool. So whenever I request music, it's always that. Sometimes I can play it.
You're living in the early 2000s.
Dude, I love it, dude.
Totally.
Even now, just yesterday, I listened to about 2 hours of Dashboard Confessional.
Great.
I was cleaning the house.
Yeah, great.
Like, I love it. It's just so. As I get older, I listen like when I was in high school, listen to it. It's like, okay, it's cool. My friends like it. It's cool music. And then I get older and listen to the lyrics and hear the music. It just sounds different.
Totally. Know? And you know the nostalgia factor too. I think is big, especially with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I have been listening to this woman. Her name's Gia Margaret. And this song called Hinoki Wood. It's a lot of instrumental stuff.
Sure.
But that has been really good too. I listened to a lot of her music that I just found. Because I don't know if you know the chill guy meme that was going around. It's not.
Yeah, it's a dog.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there was always piano playing behind it, and that was her. And,
okay.
And it's so good. And I was talking to Jake, my brother-in-law, about it, and I was like, I don't know what it is about it. He goes, well, you like the Peanuts music, Vince Guaraldi. I was like, Vince Guaraldi Trio. He was like, I said, yeah, I do. He goes, it's very similar to that. It's just, it's all that instrumental. And that's sometimes that's, I just want to hear music and go.
I listen to a lot of those. I listen to Vince Guaraldi every Christmas, probably like 4 times. That album is a banger. Yeah. I listen to some of those like lo-fi, like hip hop, like music to study to, like stuff like that. You know,
chill hop.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I'll have that on in the background too. It's nice, and it helps me kind of. You know, it's hard to focus. Like if you're cleaning or cooking or whatever, it's hard to focus if there's not any like background. You know what I mean? I get almost more distracted if I don't have something to like kind of keep my that part of my brain like focused. Yeah. So
I do that.
I like instrumentals like that for that reason.
I do that at work too, where I listen to podcasts and I need to be concentrating on like what I'm typing and doing, which I do, but sometimes I'll be playing the podcast for 20, 30 minutes and I'm not even hearing what they're saying.
Right.
I just like to hear it, similar to what we were just talking about. I just like to hear words. as I'm working on whatever I'm working. And I pick specific ones. If I need to hear what I'm saying, what they're saying, or I want to hear what they're saying, I do different things.
Right.
So I can focus on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I like to sleep to some of that stuff too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've been really into like old like Howard Stern and like Opie and Anthony.
Okay.
Like when they were like on terrestrial radio, you can still go back and find some of those show recordings.
Yeah.
And I like to like sleep to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice. It's hysterical sometimes too. Howard Stern was really funny. I mean, he used to be really funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was I think someone told me that they every once in a while will fall asleep to my podcast, and I was like, I don't know how to
That's
take
great.
it. I don't know how to take
that's
it.
good.
They're like, no, it's very calming. And I like, so it's nice to hear it and then just go to sleep because it puts. I was like, does it put you to sleep or like?
Yeah, right. Fall asleep while driving.
When people, are there songs that when people request, you're like, oh, like, are there certain ones that you're just like love to play?
Like when someone says, "Hey, I just want to hear Elton John," like I got a few Elton John songs in my arsenal, or
Okay.
like if someone wants to hear Van Morrison, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I got something good for you."
Yeah.
So my eyes do light up a little bit when someone asks for like certain artists because I play a lot of it already, and I know that they'll appreciate it, and probably more so because they'll be like, "Oh, this guy knew it, and he played it right away, and it's like sounded pretty good." You know?
Yeah.
So.
Do you have original music?
I've got some original music.
Yeah.
I am releasing a record here in the next. Yep, it's gonna be 5 songs. It's gonna be released like in the next 2 months. It's gonna be called Red Moon.
Okay.
So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that.
Yeah.
And we are just finishing up a music video.
Okay.
So so that'll be out in the next couple months as well.
Well, let me know.
So Frank Lars music is coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or do you like put it on Spotify and all that kind of stuff?
I
too?
will. Yeah.
Okay.
There's this thing. It's called DistroKid. If you upload your music to it, it puts it on all different.
Oh,
platforms.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what this. So when my podcast, it's called Podbean. The same thing. Like I upload it to Podbean and it sends it out to a bunch.
Right. You subscribe to it and then you can upload it and it goes everywhere.
Yeah. That's cool. Let me know when it comes out. That way I can talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I will. I will. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has that process been for you? Like, because I'm assuming this is the first record you put out.
It is. Right, okay. So I like to write music. Again, it's like anything with writing. Like, I always kind of second guess myself. Like, oh, I'm writing at like a 5th grade level. Like, it just doesn't, But
you're your worst critic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And something that you put out there may connect with someone else, in a different way. Maybe that you didn't even intend. Mm-hmm. So you can't really be like that. But I've been writing songs since I was like 21.
Okay.
And
how old are you now?
I'm 32.
Okay.
Yeah. But I just started recording like about 2.5 years ago. I work with this guy, Jordan. He's like right over the state line, but he's fantastic. Red Room Creative is the name of his studio. But
okay.
He's a really great sound engineer, and he really helped me along with like the recording process. I made a lot of the music on my computer. Like I can do any keyboards or drums and bass lines. Like I did all that on my computer, and then I tracked the vocals and the guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, and he mixed everything.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So everything's done. We're just waiting for the music video to be done, and then we're gonna release everything. But I enjoyed the process. He was really easy to work with. Yeah. I find that like I'm pretty easy to work with because I've already got a lot of the instrumentals there.
Okay.
Yep. So really I can just go in, record my parts. The rest is really up to him. I mean, it's really only like an hour process.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time at home.
Yeah.
But the actual in the studio is pretty easy.
Do you like the at home editing, mixing, that kind of stuff?
I do.
Yeah.
I use Fruity Loops, which isn't ideal for like rock music.
Okay.
But that process of using audio workstations, like even if I'm not like I could be making like a different genre too, but like that's really fun and that's really creative.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot you can do, and you learn a little bit about like chord progressions and music theory and stuff.
Okay.
Like just from like. I've learned a little bit about playing keyboards just from like building songs and using the workstation.
Yeah. The editing. I do all my own editing and everything.
Yeah.
It is fun. Sometimes it gets annoying when the software is not working right, or
right.
This is, all that. I was editing a video. I got more than like 60% done, and then the software decided to like not work anymore.
Oh, I throw my computer. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating. But it is fun. It is cool. And then when it's like on YouTube and like when it's out there, I'm like, yeah, I did all that.
Totally.
And it's just a cool thing. And,
Yeah.
And I love, like, there has been some people I'm talking to that want to start their own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I go, hey, before you buy anything, do anything, I said, come to where I record and I can do all that for you. That way you before you even purchase anything, you can see if you like it. Or see what that is. Like, it is fun to do all that stuff for other people.
Yeah.
Because I know how much I like it.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. It's a good skill to have too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like anything else. It's like,
Yeah. I always look at I'll go on like Indeed and look at podcast jobs to see what other jobs are out there.
Yeah.
Or like host jobs, or sometimes it's
That'd be
editing
cool.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I like all that stuff. And eventually I want to, like, it'd be cool to get paid to do this kind of stuff.
Totally.
Right now.
Yeah, totally.
Right now it's like, I always say it's costing me money right now to make this podcast.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun. My wife is really good about, like, I would say letting me, but she doesn't let me do this, but she understands that I really like it, so she makes things work and
right.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
Eventually it'll be something, and whether I get paid community and it's still community based, or it becomes bigger, whatever it is. But much like you with music, it's just fun to do. Right?
It is. Right.
If people
right.
throw me $20 every once in a while, cool. That's
Dude,
cool
absolutely,
too.
man. Yeah, absolutely. So, have you ever thought of like contacting an advertiser? I mean,
So I don't have enough downloads for that. I have in the past. I have like Big Daddy Graphics here in town in Perrysburg.
Yeah.
They give me money to buy certain pieces of equipment I needed.
Oh,
and
very
then
nice.
and then I always think I'm at the end of the podcast.
Sure.
Same person who made my logo, Cuttlefish Graphics. Every episode I mention them at the end.
Right.
My brother-in-law Jake gave me this mixer. He helped me with the software.
I like those ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've only ever used this. But it's really nice, and he gave me this, so I always shout his productions company at the end.
Totally.
And then there's random, like, my mom has her own business where she teaches safety trainings, like CPR and OSHA.
Yeah,
She has advertised before, so there are like
That's
these
cool.
one-offs.
Sure. Yeah.
But eventually that'll be a thing.
I'm sure it's
so,
hard. I mean,
Yeah.
with so much out there,
Mm-hmm.
how do you how do you rise above,
Everything.
the million
everyone-
other podcasts?
Yeah. You know what I'm learning though, and it was with a friend of mine who told me when she was on the podcast that she really likes the podcast because it makes her feel like she didn't grow up in Perrysburg, but it makes her feel like she belongs here and like knows all these people.
Yeah.
And it made me feel better and start thinking more like that. Like, yeah, I don't have a gigantic audience, but the audience I do have really likes the podcast, and I need to focus on that.
Yeah, right,
which I
right.
do.
Yeah.
Like for you, for this episode, people. There's gonna be people who don't know who you are, but now maybe if they see your name on a Facebook ad, they might go, "Oh, we should go check that
right.
out."
No, it's definitely good advertising for me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but it
This
just gets people out.
this Thursday at the Village Idiot too.
Oh, so the day it comes
today,
out.
today
the
it'll
day
be
it comes out.
we'll be at the Village Idiot. Science Dad is the name of the band.
Science Dad. I was gonna ask
Science
you if you
Dad.
had a band or if you.
Science Dad is the band. So it's my buddy John. He plays the drums. He's like kind of a trained, like, not trained, but he's like a jazz drummer.
Okay.
He was like a big drumline guy.
Okay.
So he's an incredible drummer. And then my friend Orlando, he plays bass, Orlando Finelli. And then Chris Ferrogi, who's also in the band Echo Record. They used to be Human Juice Box. They're a little bit more serious than we are, but he plays with us too. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't say super group, but it's 4 guys that like are just in different bands that like get together maybe once a month and play a show.
Okay.
Jamming and like, jamming on covers but it's a good time.
Okay.
Like I said, these guys are really talented. So
Those are those people from around here that live around here?
they are, yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's pretty much based in Toledo.
Because those 2 last names, it's just funny. You said Finelli and Rogi.
Mm-hmm.
I went to high school with people that had those same last names.
Yeah,
But
it
not
may be
them?
the cousins. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because I don't know if they have like older siblings.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. But
I mean, I know they don't, but
that's cool. That's it's cool to do your own thing, and then also because I'm sure it's fun. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't do it, right?
it's much more fun in a band setting. I can only speak for myself, but like the solo thing, even though it's a better payout, financially, like sometimes it does feel like work, but when you're with a band, 3 hours flies by.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's so much fun. Honestly, too, it's like I just sit there and like zone out and listen to the other guys jam. Sometimes it's nice. I'm at like a free concert.
Yeah,
right.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, Frank, I appreciate you coming out here again. Frank Lars Music is when your music comes out.
People Frank Lars Music. Yeah, Red Moon is going to be the name.
Okay, and then today, if people want to go check the Science Dad out at the Village Idiot. Today,
9 to 12.
Yeah, perfect, man. Well, thanks again for coming out here.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, you're a great host.
Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. If you want to reach out or be on the show, just search the Nerdball Podcast on any social media. If you want to email us, that is thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, there's always YouTube, so you can go on there, subscribe to the Nerdball Podcast, and watch the podcast every week. As always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuddlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always supporting the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.